Welcome to the Future of Online Business series and the specific 2026 forecast for you as a reflector. So in episode 2 of this series, we covered the 5 business themes for 2026 that are really being informed by the 2026 astrological transits. So we had humanness, relational business, hyper personalization, visibility reimagined, and self-trust and nervous system capacity. So if you haven't listened to that yet, go back and listen to that first because it's a much more robust deep dive of those themes. And that's really important because the lens within which I'm sharing this context for you as a reflector is really being informed by those themes. And then the episode before that covers the major transits for the year astrologically. And even if you're not super into astrology or maybe it's kind of new to you, I think that it's so significant that all of the outer and generational planets have shifted. Like these are the kinds of shifts that literally change the world, change how things are done, change systems and structures and hierarchies, and of course, therefore, change the strategies that work in our business. So really important, I think, at the moment that you have some of the context for the energy and the frequency of 2026 and beyond. But today is all about what this means for you as a reflector. And I really want to acknowledge something right at the top that because you are such a small portion of the collective, right? You're 1% of the population. It means that almost nothing in the business space has been designed with you in mind, right? Most of the frameworks and the strategies and the proven blueprints and all the things, they assume that you have consistent energy. They assume you have a fixed identity to brand around. They assume that you know who you are in the same way that other types do, and you don't. So if you've ever listened to the conversation about anything business related and thought this doesn't apply to me, then you're probably right? And this episode is my attempt to really try and change that and to provide a different way through for you in this new economy that is being created in this Pluto in Aquarius era. So a quick snapshot of what each major transit is asking of you as a reflector this year. So firstly, Neptune in Aries. I think for a type that's deeply connected to the collective energy, Neptune shifting into Aries is significant. I think that you're really going to feel the pull toward action, toward initiation, but I think that your work is to really notice that pull without being swept up in it. And I think it's to ask, is this mine or am I absorbing this from the collective? I think that that your clarity comes from observation and not from rushing. But I also think that this is a time to really trust in your intuition and trust in the observations that you do have. I think that that's definitely Neptune in Aries and alongside Saturn moving into Aries, right? What is the structure that is going to create the space for you to actually be patient in business and to really work with your, lunar cycle and run your business. Saturn isn't asking you to force consistency. It's persistence and discipline and maturity, but it's asking you to create a rhythm that actually works for how you operate and to take that seriously and look at what are the different ways that I can create a structure around this for myself. And I think Saturn conjunct Neptune, which is the next little transit, this is, happening at 0 degrees of Aries, this is so powerful. This has not happened for, some say 6,000, some say 9,000 years. And this is the transit that I think is really going to separate what's real from what's illusion. And nobody reads that better than you. Your ability to feel into what's actually true versus what's being performed. I think your ability to kind of help us move into this new economy and this Pluto in Aquarius era. I think that that's has always been so valuable, but I think that that's really about to become incredibly valuable in your own business and in how you guide others. And I think this is going to be really assisted by Uranus moving into Gemini, right? Because I think the world is really hungry for nuance, right? Uranus moving into Gemini is a real shake-up of how we learn, how we communicate, how we connect, how we collaborate. And for someone who doesn't just say this is the one way. I spoke about this in the episode before where I was covering the main 5 themes. One of the things that I really see happening is a real uncuration of content. I think that it's less talking at people and more talking with people, really just giving people perspective and nuance. And rather than it being here are 5 ways to do this, or here is the exact thing you need to do, it's really coming from a place of here are some things that I'm thinking about, or here are some rules that I'm currently living by, right? And that is so perfect for you as a reflector, right? Because I think that we are moving towards so much more substance, and we are wanting to hold space for like, what if it's this instead? And like your reflective wisdom and your ability to like see that and observe that and see multiple perspectives and then name what's happening, I think is like so aligned with this transit, alongside the next transit, which is Jupiter moving into Leo. So there's this invitation here to share what you observe, like not from a place of like, I have the answer and I have it all figured out, but from a place of like, here's what I'm noticing. And that's a different kind of visibility. And that's something that I spoke about in the last episode is, visibility reimagined, and it's deeply needed right now. And I think that one of the areas of conflict that I've heard from reflectors that I've worked with and built relationships with over time is that real resistance to like, well, I feel like I'm building in an industry that really rewards certainty and really rewards knowing, and we've seen that with content. It is like 5 ways to do this. And here is the one thing that you need to do in order to like make more money or do this thing. And there has been less reward, for nuance. And I think that is really all shifting, and I think that that's really amazing for you as a reflector. And I think with the nodes shifting as well, which is the last transit I wanted to really briefly touch on, the North Node moving into Aquarius, the South Node into Leo, you are inherently collective. Like your design literally samples the energy of everyone around you. So the North Node moving into Aquarius is community, it's shared vision, it's contribution. It feels like the world is kind of catching up, to how you've always operated, which I think is really amazing. So I do want to ask you something as a reflector. Does the environment that you are building your business in, the people you are around, the spaces that you are in, the pace that you are actually working at, the offers that you are selling, is all of that actually letting you see clearly? Or does it make you feel like something's wrong with you? Because here's what I think happens for a lot of reflectors in business and the conversations that I've had is that you look at all the frameworks and the strategies that assume that you wake up every day with the same energy and the same sense of self, and none of it really quite fits. So then you either like force yourself into that framework or someone else's framework, pretending that you have this consistent brand identity when you actually shift all the time, or that you are just, I don't know, like opting out of the conversations entirely because it feels like it just wasn't made for you. It's like you're like this alien that's got this other perspective over here. And I think that that's something we like reflectors see as something that's wrong, right? But it's not. And I think that it doesn't mean that the principles don't apply. It just means that they apply a little bit differently for you. And so a reframe that I wanted to share with you is that for most energy types, the work is about, I think, anchoring what's defined. So it's like, what are the fixed points and how can I build from there, right? But for you, there's no fixed points. Like everything is open, everything is fluid. So the question is less, who am I? At least not in the way like other types answer it. It's where do I thrive, right? What environments do I thrive in and what do I see from there? Because your gift isn't a fixed identity. It's your ability to read a room or a business or an industry and see what's actually happening, right? To name what nobody else is naming, to reflect back truth that other people can't see because they're too close to it. And I recently had a reflector reach out before joining CCBD, and she asked something that I think like every reflector has probably wondered, which is like with no defined centers, it kind of seems like everything is not self-conditioning and there's no point of difference or leverageable strengths. And she said, like, my hunch is that this can't be true, but I just can't figure out where it is. And like, this is so correct, right? Like reflectors, like you don't lack point of difference. You are the point of difference when you're in the right environment. So you're not self-conditioning isn't about specific centers getting distorted the way it is for other types. The centers are still relevant and you're hanging gates, but it's more about staying in wrong environments and making decisions too fast and trying to force certainty or a direction when you're designed to be more fluid. And so your leverageable strengths are their pattern recognition and truth telling and the ability to name what's actually happening in a room or a business or a relationship. When a group is stuck, you can feel it. When someone's, messaging is off, like you can sense it. Like when an industry is moving in a direction that nobody's really talking about yet, like you notice. And that's actually everything in 2026. Because this year is exactly, like that's asking for exactly what you do naturally, right? With Saturn and Neptune meeting in Aries, the collective, is being asked to separate what's real from what's performance, what's genuine from what's, being held together by illusion. And who reads that better than a reflector, right? And with Uranus moving into Gemini, the world is getting noisier, it's getting faster. People are exhausted by certainty, by people telling them this is the way, this is the one thing you have to do. People are craving substance and nuance and contemplation. Someone who holds space for what if we're looking at this the wrong way, right? What if we looked at it this way instead? And that's you. So the question isn't how do you fit into the existing business landscape? It's how do you build something that uses the way you naturally operate as the actual offering, right? So on the practical side, because I know you're a mirror and you're here to share your objective reflections is not a business model. Your business needs to account for space and time, right? So I think it's really important that you track the lunar cycle, you track when you feel most creative during the month, most clear, most energized for particular kinds of work. What is the natural energy that you have over the course of a month? Track when you need to go inward, when you feel foggy, when you just feel that pressure. And over a period of time, patterns will really emerge. And those patterns become the bones of how you structure and schedule your business. When you create content, when you take calls, when you launch, when you rest, all of that. And I don't think it's necessarily about working less either. It's about working with your rhythm instead of against it. It's about building the systems, the nurture process, clear pathways that keep things moving during the phases where you need to step back. And I think alongside that is really thinking about creating containers now where literally the positioning and the result is contemplation. I think that we are all really we've seen that information alone does not create a result. Because if it did, we would all have multi-million-dollar businesses. And I think that the thing that we are not as great at collectively is curiosity and contemplation. And I think that that is your skill set. That is your superpower. And I think that you really need to start to unravel from the more traditional ways of positioning a result of an offer. You will grow your business to do this, or you will, have this more regulated nervous system. It's what if the result is simply about creating a container and space for contemplation and for connection, and to let your mind just go crazy with ideas. How much would that have a correlation with results in someone's life and business if you facilitated that space for people, right? On your environment, and I mean this very practically, where you work, the people you're exposed to, the environments you are in matters more for you than any other type. So the people you're around, the spaces you're in, what you consume on Instagram, on social media, the news, whatever, who you hold space for, these shape how you feel about yourself and your business more than you probably realize. So if you are not being boundaried around that, if you're in environments that feel chaotic or pressured or misaligned, that's going to show up in your work, in your content, in your ability to see clearly. You can't offer your reflective wisdom if you're absorbing everyone else's stress. So part of your business strategy, and I mean this so seriously, as I would mean building a funnel for a generator, is actually curating your environment, right? Choosing the communities that you're in, being selective about who you collaborate with, giving yourself actual spaciousness to observe before you create, really important. On disappointment, because this is a sign that things are off track for you, this is your not self theme as a reflector. Disappointment for reflectors usually shows up when you've been living in an environment and spending a lot of time, the environments that we just spoke about, where you don't feel like you can be yourself. So really important that you notice when you are feeling disappointed from conversations, people you've been around, exchanges, things that you've listen to, podcasts or YouTubes, things like that. When have you felt that, right? We want you to be able to be surprised and delighted by life. And that means that we need to be in environments where that happens. So make sure that you're noticing that as well. And when disappointment shows up, the question is not what's wrong with me? Why is this, what do I need to reframe myself? It's where am I? And is this the right place for me to be right now? Because sometimes the most powerful business decision for you as a reflector is not actually about the actual strategy. It's an environment change. So here's what I would love for you to do after this episode for the next lunar cycle. So roughly the next 28 days, every single day, make a note of just how you feel, not necessarily what you do, but just how you feel. You can literally look up where the moon is, you can Google it, right? And so each day make a note, like where is the moon? And just a few notes, like what's your energy like? Where do you feel clear? Where do you feel foggy? When do ideas come through easily? When does everything feel like forced? Who were you around today? And how did that affect your state? And then at the end of that cycle, what will be really amazing is you'll be attuned to the environments that feel supportive for you, while at the same time being attuned to your unique cycle and pattern, because that pattern is like your own business rhythm. It's the thing that tells you when to create, when to rest, when to make decisions, when to wait. Really important. And of course, alongside that, you'll gain a lot of insights into your environment, right? Where you need to audit that, the people, the spaces, the content you're consuming. And I think it's important to ask yourself really honestly, does this environment, does this relationship let me see clearly? Does it let me feel like I can take up space here, right? Or does it make me feel like something's wrong with me? Because the clearer and more surprised and delighted you feel in your environment, the clearer your wisdom. And that wisdom and those reflections are like that's the thing that we need from you, right? So if you would like more support with this, I do have a free human design and business strategy guide that I think is going to be really helpful for you as a reflector. It's specific for you as a reflector. Now, when you download this guide, there's actually 5 resources in total that are delivered via email over, I don't know, it's a few weeks. I can't remember the exact amount of days, but one in particular that I want to flag specifically for you as a reflector is the very last resource, which is resource number 5, is that this is like a complete guide to consistent conversions for reflectors. So it goes through sales, content, and offer creation through the lens of your skill set as a reflector. Because like I said, you're 1% of the population and we need you to be doing things differently. And I think that there is so much space for you to create containers at the moment that are literally about curiosity and contemplation. So much space for that. I think that that is going to be an amazing offer that people really want to have from you in 2026 and beyond. So I'll make sure that is linked in the show notes. If you want to figure out what to actually focus on right now as it relates to sales, then I highly recommend Selling Soulfully. It's $37. It'll take you under 2 hours to complete, and it walks you through the full sales ecosystem. And for you as a reflector, this is really important to support your energy and to support your rhythm. So there's a separate training for you as a reflector. And if you would like a space, if you would like to come in and work alongside me, and I have another reflector client that's also stepped into CCBD, where we do this work together, where I can look at your chart, your astrology, have conversations around your environment, your messaging, your offers, help you build something that really works with the way that you operate as a reflector, that I'd love to invite you into Constantly Converting by Design. It's where we build businesses that love you back. We run this a couple of times a year, and we are opening the enrollment to the waitlist on March 2nd. So we will open it publicly as well, but we always have some extra special gifts to the waitlist. We also have other little open cut periods throughout the year that we don't talk about publicly. So it's a really good idea to be on the waitlist. So links for everything are below. And don't forget to come back for the embodiment practice, which will be episode 8 in this series and episode 311 on the All That Jazze podcast. It's a really amazing practice that is taking you to your December 2026 self, and then kind of looking back as if all of those transits have already happened over the course of 2026, and the gifts that it offered you as a reflector. And it's really just designed to help you embody some of these shifts and really start to visualize and get your nervous system on board with the era and the economy that we are stepping into. So don't forget to come back to that episode, and I will see you there.